right, so this is for column 4. We're gonna start off testing upper cross syndrome diagnoses. So starting off with levator scapulae, I'm going to have you, Erica, we're gonna test your left side. I'm gonna have you turn your head 30 degrees to the left and then flex your head forward for me. Perfect, and then I'll have you return to neutral. Same on the other side, 30 degrees to the right and flex forward. And that left side was more restricted. She had less range of motion there, so I would say her left levator scapulae is hypertonic. And also too, backtracking a little bit, you're only going to get one from each column. I'm gonna just run through all of them, but this is the same as column 2, So you only get 3 of these, and one from each column, or one from each line. All right, and then our next one, we have upper trapezius. Yep, so we're gonna assess your left side first. I'm gonna have you side bend your head to the right, rotate your head towards the left, and then flex your head forward. Perfect, and I'll have you do the same on the other side. So side bend your head to the left, rotate your head towards the right, yep, and then flex your head forward. Perfect, and again, her left side seemed a little more restricted, so I'd say left trapezius is hypertonic. And then we're going to do SCM next, since that is a logical following muscle from there. So same thing as upper trap, I'm just gonna have you tuck your chin in, and then we're gonna assess your left side. So going to have you side bend your head to the right, keep that chin tucked, rotate your head to the left, and then flex forward. Perfect. So again, SCM, sternocleidomastoid, is the same position as trapezius, but you're tucking that chin in to assist that. And then next we'll do scalenes next. Oh, I just did one side for that one. I'm just going to run through the rest of these just to show you all the examples. So for scalenes, we'll start with middle. That's just pure side bending. So we're going to assess your right side now. So I'm going to have you side bend your head to the left. Yep. So that's just the middle scalene is pure side bending. For anterior, I'm going to have you side bend your head to the left and then rotate your head to the left as well. So away, rotation away is for the anterior scalene. So away, anterior. And then for posterior scalene, I'm gonna have you, again on the right side, I'm gonna have you side bend your head to the left and then rotate your head to the right. Exactly. So that's assessing for posterior scalene. Again, you'd want to model these on both sides, assess for hypertonicity, whichever is more restricted and has less range of motion. All right, so that was all of the ones seated. So I'm going to have you lay down now and we'll do pectoralis major. So I'll start on this side. So for pectoralis major, we're going to extend AB duct and externally rotate while also monitoring. That has some decent range of motion, but a little tender and restricted. And then assessing the other side, we are going to extend AB duct, externally rotate, and monitor there. And that one's definitely more restricted. So she has a left hypertonic pectoralis major. And then last but not least, we'll do the cervical erector spining. So Erica, I'm gonna have you tuck your chin and raise your head vertebrae by vertebrae, superior vertebrae to inferior vertebrae, to look at your toes. Yeah, and she has some hypertonic muscles in there, so definitely hypertonic cervical erector spinae there. All right, and I'll have you set up now, and we'll move on to the next box. So for ulnohumeral joint, we're going to assess medial and lateral. Yes. So starting with her right arm, I'm going to grab either side of her olecranon and then her distal forearm, and I'm going to move her arm into AB adduction, medial lateral glide, and she is more restricted when I pull her olecranon laterally, so she has a preference for AB duction, medial glide on this. And then, sorry, I would screen both sides. Yeah, and this one isn't nearly as restricted, so sorry, just to review that briefly, we're going to screen both sides first, and I'm noting that restriction there. And then screen the other side, not as bad. And then we would go and diagnose that she has a preference for medial glide in her right arm. So screening, then diagnosis. Sorry about that. And then for the radial head, I'm going to screen first. So walking from olecranon laterally to her lateral epicondyle, and then I feel that joint line, and then the radial head. So I'm gonna grab that radial head and just supinate, pronate on that side, and I'm gonna assess the same side as well. So olecranon, walk laterally to the lateral epicondyle, joint line, radial head, supination, pronation, better motion than that one. So we're gonna focus on this guy, again, walking over to the radial head, and she definitely has a preference for posterior or pronation. So she has a posterior radial head on her right radial head. And then next we're going to do the RC joint. We're only focusing on anterior, posterior, medial, lateral. So for this guy, I'm gonna actually flip you over for this so I can get some better contact with those carpal bones. So I'm just gonna screen initially. All right, going for general movement in there. And her left wrist actually feels a little more restricted. She's right-handed, so that's a little confusing, but maybe we'll assess that one again. Okay, yeah, your lateral wrist is a little more restricted. So we'll focus on her right hand for that. So we are going to flex and extend her hand, and she has a preference for extension with anterior carpal glide. So extension, anterior carpal glide, and a deduction with lateral carpal glide of her right radial carpal joint. All right, so now assessing her MCP and IP joints. Erica, I'm gonna have you hold your hands out and slowly close your hands into a fist. We're gonna do open out again. And one more time. All right, and I can see a little bit more restriction at this pinky. So I'm diagnosing both. I'm diagnosing, I guess, just one joint. So I'm gonna go in to this distal interphalangeal joint of her fifth phalange on her right hand. So we're going to assess anterior posterior glide. She has a preference for posterior glide at that DIP. And then medial lateral, ABA deduction. She has a preference for a abduction. And then internal external rotation. She has a preference for external rotation at that joint. All right. It does all that. So now moving on to counter strain. So we have radial head first. So for radial head, we're gonna just go pure lateral to medial pressure along that radial head. Any tenderness along here? Yes, tender. And then what about on this side? Yeah. Nice, good. And then for medial epicondyle, same thing, but medial aspect. So we're gonna go medial to lateral, the elbow. Any tenderness here? A little bit, not bad. Not too bad. And then this side, yeah. So we have a tender point at her left medial epicondyle. And then we have dorsal and palmar wrist. So starting with the palmar wrist, we have our first point right on that right intermediate to the radius and the ulna, and then right on that ulna. So any tenderness here? Yes. Back here? No. Not there, and we'll do that side as well. So we're gonna go right here, intermediate to the radius and the ulna, under there, and then on the ulna. Nope, perfect. And then our other palmar wrist tender points are along that joint line. Any tenderness here? On this aspect? On this aspect. Right about there? Yeah. Perfect. And then anything on this side? No, nothing on there. Perfect. Then our dorsal wrist, we have 3 points here. So our first one is on the radius, right there. Yeah. And then our second one is intermediate to the radius and ulna, right there. And our third point is on the ulna, nothing there. And then same on this side. Our first point is on the radius. Yeah, anything there, yep. So tender. And then intermediate to the radius and the ulna, and then on the ulna, perfect. And then our dorsal wrist, last tender points are along that joint line. Anything along here? and then anything along here?
No.
Perfect. And last but not least, we have the first carpal metacarpal and flexor pollicis brevis. So first carpal metacarpal, if you divide the thenar eminence into two long boxes, first carpal metacarpal will be more lateral, more medial, or more lateral, more proximal, and closer to that scaphoid.
A little bit, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then flexor pollicis brevis is in that second portion of the thenar eminence, and it's more distal and more medial than that first carpal metacarpal. Is anything there?
Mm-hmm. No.
Perfect. So again, first carpal metacarpal, flexor pollicis brevis. There and there. And then first carpal metacarpal on this side.
No.
And flexor pollicis brevis on this side.
No.
Perfect. All right, that's it.